"Get your damn hands off my daughter." Nathaniel Cross's voice, sharp and commanding, exploded from the top of the grand staircase. On the second-floor balcony of the modern Los Angeles estate, Maya William, 29, froze in place. She was crouched protectively, arms locked around Lily Cross, the 5-year-old daughter of the man now storming toward them. The girl trembled in her grasp, perched far too close to the edge, an open space where the glass railing had been removed the previous week for renovations. One wrong movement, one slip, and she'd fall 2 stories down into the stone courtyard. Maya had found her out here moments ago, standing on tiptoes, reaching for a baby bird chirping from a low branch that stretched over the balcony. And now, this. "Maya forced me," Lily cried suddenly, turning her tear-filled eyes to her father. "She made me come out here. I didn't wanna. She pulled me." Maya's lips parted in horror. "Lily, no, that's not." But Nathaniel was already there. In 2 powerful strides, he tore the girl from Maya's arms and clutched her close. His eyes locked on Maya's. "What kind of sick, twisted do you think this is a game?" His voice was venom. "You drag a child, my daughter, onto a goddamn balcony with no railing?" "I was saving her," Maya gasped, hands up, breath short. She was already out here. She climbed out to. "Shut up." The words hit first, then came his hand. Smack. The slap rang out like a gunshot. Maya stumbled back from the blow, her temple burning, her breath stolen from her lungs. And then time stopped. Her heel hit the smooth tile edge. Her body teetered. She saw the gap behind her, the empty air, the dizzying fall, the way the sky opened behind her like a great blue mouth ready to swallow her whole. And in that second, she was 7 years old again, standing on the concrete stairs outside her foster home. The door had been slammed shut behind her. "Stay there until you learn how to listen," her foster mother had snapped. And she had stayed, frozen, all night, feet numb, eyes fixed on the drop below, too afraid to cry. Now, as an adult, the same terror came back in a crashing wave. Her knees buckled. She might have fallen, if Nathaniel hadn't grabbed her by the forearm and yanked her forward. But there was no kindness in his grip. He shoved her toward the wall, shielding Lily behind him. "You're done. Do you hear me?" he seethed. "You're finished. Fired. Get your things and get the hell out of my house." Maya clutched her chest, trying to catch her breath. "Please. I swear to you I didn't pull her. She was chasing a bird. I grabbed her before she could fall. I saved her. You have to believe me." Nathaniel laughed cold, humorless. "Believe you? After what I just saw? She climbed out while you were gone. She's been waking up at night, sleepwalking, chasing things. You wouldn't know. You're never here." The words slipped from her mouth before she could catch them, and she regretted them instantly. Nathaniel's face turned to stone. "Out. Now." Maya bit her lip, nodded quickly, and turned to go. Her vision blurred from tears and adrenaline. But just before she stepped inside the hallway, she caught a glimpse of something strange movement in the courtyard below. She stopped. There, standing just beyond the fountain in the driveway, was a tall man in a black suit. Still. Silent. His posture too rigid, too sharp. He was staring up at the balcony, his face partially in shadow. For one brief moment, their eyes met. He saw her, and then, without a word, he stepped backward into the shadows and vanished behind the columns lining the property. Maya blinked. "Did you see that?" she whispered. Nathaniel didn't hear her. He was already turning away, cradling Lily. "Go," he muttered, "before I call the cops." Maya backed into the hallway, mind spinning. That man. He didn't belong to the staff. She had never seen him before, but his face, there was something about it that chilled her deeper than even Nathaniel's slap. A look that didn't quite fit the situation, and a question that echoed silently in her heart. Had he been watching them the whole time? If you feel for the character, give this video a like, and comment where you're watching from. Who knows? Someone nearby might be watching along with you right now. That night, Nathaniel sat at his desk, the glass of scotch untouched in front of him. His body was still tense. His mind kept replaying the moment, the balcony, the screaming, the accusation, Lily's words, Maya's denial, and something else, the brief flicker of something like terror in Maya's eyes, not guilt, not shame, pure, unfiltered fear. He stood and opened the drawer to the desk, pulling out the USB backup for the security footage. Something about the balcony cameras had gone dark. Power failure? Or something else? He stared at the drive, then shut the drawer. Not tonight. He walked down the hall to check on Lily. She lay quiet, hugging her stuffed lamb, eyes open. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Did Maya hurt you?" Silence. She pulled me," Lily said again, softer this time, not quite confident. Nathaniel swallowed the knot forming in his throat. He kissed her forehead and turned off the light. But somewhere deep in his chest, doubt was beginning to bloom, like a crack in glass, small at first, then growing. He hadn't seen the man in the courtyard. He hadn't seen the truth. But Maya had. And whatever had happened today, it wasn't finished. Not yet. The next morning arrived with a false sense of calm. Sunlight filtered lazily through the tall windows of the Cross estate, brushing against gleaming wood floors and pristine countertops. Everything looked perfect except Nathaniel Cross. He sat at the kitchen island, a cup of coffee growing cold between his fingers, eyes unfocused, jaw tight. He hadn't slept. He had spent most of the night watching the security footage from the backup drive on loop. Frame by frame, the truth had unfolded. Lily walking barefoot out onto the balcony alone. The low-hanging branch swaying in the wind. The chirping of a baby bird from its nest. Then Maya rushing in after her, barefoot, frantic, pulling the child back just before she slipped. And he'd slapped her. He closed his eyes, the memory tightening around his throat like a noose. Her gasp, her fear, her trembling hand reaching for the balcony edge, teetering over empty space. And then that man, the stranger in the black suit, lurking in the courtyard, watching, vanishing. Nathaniel had made a catastrophic mistake, and Maya had paid the price. "Dad?" He turned to find Lily standing in the doorway, her stuffed lamb held close to her chest, still in her pajamas. Her eyes were rimmed with pink. He knelt down to her level. "Hey, sweetheart." "No." Lily hesitated, then whispered, "Is Maya mad at me?" The question landed hard. He took a slow breath. "She's not here right now. Because of me," Lily mumbled, tears filling her lashes. "No," he said gently, "because I didn't listen." She clutched her lamb tighter. "I didn't mean to lie. I was scared. I thought you'd be mad." Nathaniel swallowed hard. "I was mad, Lily. But not at you. And not at Maya. Not really. I just didn't understand. And that's my fault." She sniffled. "I miss her." He nodded. "Me too." Less than an hour later, Nathaniel parked his black Tesla in front of a modest apartment complex in East Hollywood. He'd gotten the address from Claire, the housekeeper. Maya had moved in with her cousin temporarily after leaving the Cross estate. He knocked on the door, and after a moment, Maya opened it wearing jeans and a loose gray t-shirt, her hair pulled back. Her expression when she saw him said everything: surprise, caution, and pain. "Nathaniel," she said evenly. "Maya," he breathed, voice softer than she'd expected. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside without a word. The apartment was quiet, a modest couch, a small table, a stack of folded laundry in the corner. The kind of place that said she'd left in a hurry. He sat on the edge of the armchair. She stood by the window, arms crossed. A faint bruise still colored her cheek. "I saw the footage," he said. She didn't respond. "You were telling the truth." Lily climbed out to reach for a bird. "You saved her." Still, she said nothing. "I slapped you," he continued, "and accused you of endangering her when you were the only one protecting her." "You did," Maya said flatly, "and then you fired me, humiliated me, in front of your child, after I nearly fell over that edge trying to stop her." "I know, and you didn't believe me. You believed a scared 5-year-old over someone who has been protecting that girl like her own since your wife died." "I know," he said again, quieter this time. Maya's voice trembled now. "You called me poor, like I was trash, like my presence in your house was a threat. I was wrong." She turned to him, arms still folded. "So why are you here?" "Because I came to apologize," he said, standing. "And because I'm asking, not ordering you to come back. To come home." "No, I'm not a piece of furniture, Nathaniel," she replied. You can't just fix a broken chair and put it back where it was. I don't think you're a chair, he said, with a sad smile. I think you were the backbone of that house, and I was too blind to see it. Maya looked at him for a long time, her eyes unreadable. Please, he said, voice rough. Come back. I can't. He nodded slowly. I understand. But just then, there was a knock at the door. Maya frowned and went to open it, and there stood Lily. The little girl wore a hoodie and jeans, her curly hair in pigtails, her eyes wide and glistening. Hi, Maya, she whispered. Maya's breath caught in her chest. I'm sorry, Lily said, voice trembling. I lied. I didn't mean to. I was just scared. I didn't want to get in trouble. Maya knelt down slowly, her hands trembling now. I missed you, Lily whimpered. Please don't go away forever. Tears slipped down Maya's cheeks before she could stop them. Lily threw her arms around Maya's neck, holding tight. I'm sorry I made you cry, Lily sobbed. You're my best friend. Maya closed her eyes, resting her cheek against the little girl's head. Oh, baby girl. Nathaniel watched silently from the corner, his throat tightening. For a long time, neither adult spoke. Only the quiet sobs of a child filled the room. Then, finally, Maya opened her eyes and looked up at him. I'm not coming back for you, she said softly. I'm coming back. For her. Nathaniel nodded. That's more than fair. She rose to her feet, still holding Lily's hand. But things are going to change. Whatever you need. Maya met his eyes. You'll listen next time? I swear. She nodded once. And just like that, something in the room shifted, not fixed, not healed completely, but patched. A beginning. And outside, in the sunlight, a small bird landed on the railing of her tiny apartment balcony, chirping softly, as if the universe had heard the truth at last. The morning Maya returned to the Cross estate, the air felt different, cleaner, brighter, as if the house itself had been holding its breath and finally exhaled. Claire greeted her at the door with a warm, knowing smile. Lily came barreling down the hallway, arms open, squealing with joy. Nathaniel kept his distance, respectfully quiet as he watched the reunion unfold. It was Lily who took Maya by the hand and led her through the front hallway, past the grand staircase, and back into the kitchen as if nothing had ever happened. But everything had changed. Especially Maya. She noticed the small changes immediately. A vase of wildflowers sat on the counter, her favorite kind, picked by Lily and Claire. The tea mugs had been moved down to the lower shelf so Maya wouldn't have to reach too high, something she'd casually mentioned weeks ago. Even the glass on the balcony, repaired and gleaming, had a tiny sticker on the edge that read, For Maya, safety first. Nathaniel didn't try to explain. He didn't overcompensate. He simply watched. And when Maya turned to him, he gave her a subtle nod, as if to say, I see you now. That afternoon, Maya settled back into her routines, folding laundry, prepping Lily's snack tray, humming soft jazz tunes under her breath. Yet underneath the return to normalcy, a subtle tension buzzed beneath her skin. She hadn't forgotten the man in the black suit, and she hadn't forgotten the way her heart had dropped when she saw him watching from the shadows. Later that evening, as dusk fell over the property, Maya stepped onto the balcony alone. She looked out over the courtyard, where soft light spilled across the cobblestones. Everything looked calm, but her instinct told her something else. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warm breeze. Behind her, the glass door opened. You okay? Nathaniel asked, voice low. She didn't turn around. You have cameras out here again? He stepped beside her. New ones, hardwired, backed up twice. She nodded, then tilted her head slightly. Have you checked the footage from the night I left? I have, he said. I saw Lily go out there. I saw you pull her back. And I saw him. She turned then, eyes sharp. So you saw him too? I did, briefly. He disappeared into the shadows before I could identify anything. Maya looked down at the courtyard. You think he was watching Lily? Nathaniel's jaw tightened. I don't know, but I intend to find out. You're a billionaire, she said. Don't you have security for things like this? I do, he admitted. But after my wife died, I shut most of it down. I wanted privacy, peace. Maybe I got too comfortable. She gave him a hard look. There's no such thing as peace when you have a child in the public eye. I know that now. He paused, then added quietly, I filed a report, pulled the camera footage, sent it to a private investigator. Good, Maya said, because whoever he wasn't just some random guy. His eyes, he wasn't surprised to see us. He was expecting it. Nathaniel glanced at her. You sound like you've seen something like this before. Maya didn't answer right away. I grew up in the system, she said eventually. Lots of men in suits. Some wanted to help. Some just liked watching from far away. You learn the difference. Nathaniel looked away, shame flickering in his expression. I should have believed you from the beginning. Maya's voice softened. You believe me now. That's what matters. There was a long silence between them, interrupted only by the soft rustle of leaves. Inside, Lily's laughter echoed from the hallway as she played with Claire. Maya turned to go back inside but paused when she caught something in the corner of her eye. Across the courtyard, just beyond the hedges near the driveway gate, a shadow moved. It was quick, subtle, could have been nothing, but Maya's instincts flared. She narrowed her eyes. I saw him again, she said. Nathaniel followed her gaze but saw only empty space. I'll have security sweep the perimeter. No, Maya said firmly. I want to see the footage myself this time. Nathaniel blinked. You? I'm not just a housekeeper, she replied. I know how to read people. I want to know who's watching this family. Something in her voice made him nod without hesitation. Back inside, Maya sat with Lily for bedtime stories. The child was sleepy, thumb in her mouth, curled under blankets with her lamb plushie pressed to her chest. Maya smoothed the girl's hair and said softly, You're safe, sweetheart. I'm here now. Lily looked up at her. You won't leave again? Maya kissed her forehead. Not unless you tell me to. Lily shook her head furiously. Never. As Lily drifted off, Maya stood at the door, watching her. Her chest tightened not with fear, but with resolve. Something was coming, and this time, she wouldn't let it slip past her. In the hallway, Nathaniel waited. I moved your room downstairs, he said quietly. Next to Lily's. Safer. Easier. Thank you. He hesitated. If anything ever happened to me, would you protect her? She looked him dead in the eye. I already have. And with that, Maya walked into her new room closer to Lily, closer to danger, and closer to uncovering the truth about the shadow that had started it all. 2 days later, Maya sat in the dim glow of Nathaniel's private office, her eyes locked on the surveillance footage playing across 3 high-definition monitors. The room was quiet, save for the soft hum of the system's cooling fans and the occasional creak of the estate's aging floorboards. It was nearly midnight. Everyone else was asleep. She clicked through footage frame by frame, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then back again, over and over, always the same dark shape near the edge of the garden. A tall man in a black suit. No badge, no tools. Not one of the estate staff, always lingering for just seconds long enough to be seen, not long enough to be caught. What do you want? Maya whispered under her breath, eyes narrowing. And why now? She paused the video on one frame, a blurry image of the man turning his head slightly toward the house. His face was obscured by shadows, but she noticed something this time she hadn't before, a small pin on his lapel, gold, circular, almost like a crest. She leaned in. The design was too grainy to make out. She reached for her phone and snapped a photo of the screen. Behind her, Nathaniel entered quietly, still dressed in slacks and a t-shirt from earlier in the day. He carried 2 mugs of tea chamomile, with honey, and offered one wordlessly. Thanks, Maya said, taking it. Find anything? She turned the screen toward him. This pin. He's wearing it every time. Same place. Same angle. Nathaniel squinted. Looks familiar. Military? Private security? No, he said slowly. No, not quite. He set the mug down and pulled out his phone, tapping through an app. Let me run it through some ID databases. I have access to a few. Maya raised an eyebrow. Of course you do. He smiled faintly. Perks of running a tech empire. Dabbery. As he tapped, Maya's mind drifted back to the little details she'd logged since returning. The shadow at the gate had appeared again just that morning, this time during her walk with Lily. She hadn't told Nathaniel yet. Not until she had something concrete. "You think he's watching the house?" she asked. Nathaniel didn't look up. "I think he's watching you." Her stomach twisted. "Me?" "Since the night of the balcony. He appeared after you screamed. You were the only one who saw him first." "No." Still doesn't explain why. Nathaniel finally looked up. "What don't I know about you, Maya?" She bristled, caught off guard. "I don't mean that as an accusation," he added, "but something about the way you've handled all this. You're not just someone who grew up in the system. You're trained. You move like someone who's been in danger before." Maya looked at the footage, deflecting. "When you grow up in fear, you learn how to read the wind before it shifts." He didn't push further. Instead, the phone in his hand buzzed. He glanced down and his eyebrows furrowed. "What is it?" Maya asked. "This pin," he said slowly, turning the screen toward her. A search result had loaded. "It's not military. It's corporate. Belongs to a private equity group called Venturo Global. I had a brief buyout offer from them last year. Rejected it. Wasn't impressed." Maya leaned in. "So they sent someone to stalk your child in revenge?" "I didn't think we left on those terms," Nathaniel said. "But they're aggressive. Anonymous. Nobody really knows who funds them. Lots of shell companies. Real shadowy stuff." Maya sat back, gears turning. "Someone in your business world might want more than just your company," she said. "They want control. Access. Weak points." Nathaniel looked at her. "You think Lily is a weak point?" "She's the perfect one," Maya replied. "Small. Vulnerable. You'd burn the world down for her. They're testing you." He fell silent. The screen blinked motion detected in the east corridor. Maya straightened. "That's Lily's wing." Both of them stood at the same time. No words. They rushed down the hall, Maya barefoot, Nathaniel clutching the estate tablet synced to security. The corridor was silent. No footsteps. No voices. Maya knocked softly on Lily's door. "Lily? It's Maya." No answer. Nathaniel opened the door, and there she was curled in bed, sound asleep, the lamb plushie tucked under her arm. Nothing seemed out of place. Except, Maya walked slowly to the window. She reached up and gently touched the latch. It was unlatched. Her stomach dropped. "I locked this earlier," she said. "Every night. Always." Nathaniel stepped beside her. "Can someone open it from the outside?" "Only if they have the tool." They exchanged a look. That night, Maya didn't go back to her room. She pulled a blanket from the hall closet and slept in the chair beside Lily's bed, one hand resting on the child's foot, as a silent promise. Nathaniel checked the security feeds again before returning to his office, where he sat for hours, unable to shake the growing certainty in his gut. Someone was testing the perimeter, and now they knew exactly where it was soft. Back in Lily's room, Maya's eyes opened in the dark. No dreams, no nightmares, just silence. But outside the estate walls, beyond the cameras, behind the trees, a black car sat idling, engine humming low. And in the back seat, the man in the black suit tapped his fingers slowly on the window glass, a smirk pulling at the corner of his mouth. "Soon," he whispered. "She'll come looking." Maya didn't sleep the following night, not truly. Her eyes stayed open, adjusted to the dark, ears tuned for the smallest creak, the faintest movement. Lily lay safe in bed, breathing steady and soft, her small fingers curled around the edge of her lamb plushie. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor beside her, back against the wall, one hand resting on a flashlight, the other on her phone. By morning, her body ached with fatigue, but her mind was sharper than ever. The window latch had been tampered with. That wasn't imagination. Someone had tried to get in, or wanted her to believe they had. Either way, it was a message. Downstairs, Nathaniel was already awake, pacing the length of his study when Maya appeared in the doorway. He looked up, startled. "She okay?" he asked. "Sleeping," Maya replied. "I stayed with her." He gave a tired nod. "I thought I'd imagined it, you know? At first. The shadow, the missing footage, even you warning me. But now, it's not just surveillance anymore. It's pressure. They're not trying to scare you. Maya said calmly. They're trying to expose you. Nathaniel raised a brow. Expose me how? Make you overreact. Break your structure. Damage your reputation. Make the press question your stability. Maybe even your custody over Lily. The words landed hard. His eyes dropped to the floor. You think they're trying to take her? I think they want you afraid enough to make mistakes. He nodded slowly, chewing the inside of his cheek. Then we make none. Maya hesitated. I need to see something. The documents from the Venturo offer. Did they have access to any personal files? Photos, home footage, family details? Nathaniel crossed to the wall safe, punched in the code, and pulled out a slim red folder. This is everything I kept from our meetings, he said. They never got access to anything private, at least not that I know of. Maya took the file and flipped through. Contracts, non-disclosures, notes. She froze at a single page tucked near the back, a printed bio sheet on Lily, complete with a photo of her at daycare and a timestamp from over a year ago. This photo isn't from any press release, Maya said quietly. This is internal, taken without your knowledge. Nathaniel's throat tightened. How the hell did they get it? Same way they got a man in a suit on your property without tripping alarms, she said. They've been watching for longer than you thought. He ran both hands through his hair. We need more than just footage. We need a name. A face. Maya's jaw tightened. Then let me draw them out. What? Nathaniel turned sharply. No, absolutely not. You said it yourself, they're watching me. Let them. I'm not using you as bait. You don't have to, she said. They already think I'm a vulnerability. Let's make them show their hand. He stared at her, conflicted. You know, I keep asking myself why you're still here. After everything, the slap, the humiliation, you had every reason to walk. Maya looked at him steadily. Because she's worth it, she said. Lily deserves someone who won't look away. Nathaniel swallowed hard, emotion flickering in his eyes. Then we do it smart. We do it together. Later that day, Maya took Lily out for ice cream, something simple, normal. She made sure to take the usual route, passed by public areas with good visibility. At a quiet corner cafe, she sat at a small metal table, while Lily licked her strawberry cone, cheeks sticky and smiling. Maya scanned the street. A silver sedan had been parked across the lot since they arrived. Tinted windows. No one stepped out. When Lily turned to toss her napkin in the trash, Maya used the reflection in the cafe's window to study the car's side mirror. A camera, pointed at them. Subtle, but definitely there. She calmly pulled out her phone and sent a text to Nathaniel. They're here. Still watching. Still quiet. Back at the estate, Nathaniel was ready. He had contacted a private contact, someone ex-military, off the books. A man named Harris, known for tracking corporate espionage threats with a surgical precision. Harris showed up within the hour. Lean build, salt and pepper beard, minimal words. You don't need alarms, he said after reviewing the footage. You need leverage. We have a face, Nathaniel said, pointing to the blurred image of the man in the courtyard. Not enough, Harris replied. But you're close. Whoever this is, they're cautious, surgical. But the moment they realize they're being tracked, they'll either run or strike. Nathaniel frowned. So what do we do? Harris leaned in. We give them the illusion that Maya's alone with the girl, that security's been pulled back, that Nathaniel Cross has become distracted. Nathaniel hesitated. And if they try something? Then we'll be waiting. That night, Maya returned home with Lily just before dark. She acted natural, calm, warm, maternal. Nathaniel left the estate on purpose, letting security escorts be visible as he exited, making it look like the house was unguarded. Harris and a second operative stayed hidden on the second floor. Maya gave no indication that anything had changed. At 9:47 p.m., the motion sensor near the rear garden triggered. A single figure, dressed in black, stepped through a gap in the hedges, silent, precise. He moved along the eastern wall, toward the kitchen door. Inside, Maya stood in the hallway, holding Lily's bedtime book. Her hands didn't tremble. Her breath remained even, but her eyes never left the small screen in her palm, synced to the external cameras. The man reached the patio, paused, and then, for the first time, looked directly into the camera, smiled, and waved. Harris's voice came through the earpiece. "We've got a visual. He wants to be seen. Maya, stay where you are." Maya's eyes narrowed. "No, he's not walking away this time." She turned, gently placed the book on the table, and stepped out into the hallway, her steps quiet, purposeful, fearless. Because some ghosts didn't go away when you ignored them. Some had to be faced. And this one had just knocked on her door. Maya stepped into the night air, barefoot on cold stone, her heart pounding a quiet rhythm beneath her ribs. The kitchen door was ajar, left unlatched just enough to creak when touched. The garden beyond shimmered under moonlight, calm and pristine, deceptively so. She didn't bring a weapon. She didn't call out. She simply walked, letting instinct lead. A breeze stirred the tall hedges along the east wall. Then she saw him. The man stood partially cloaked in shadow near the patio arbor, dressed in a tailored black suit, hands behind his back like he was waiting for an old friend. The same gold pin glinted on his lapel. "You're brave," he said calmly, his voice smooth, theatrical, or foolish. "I've been both," Maya replied, keeping her step steady. The man tilted his head. "The child. Is she yours?" "No," Maya said, "but she's mine to protect." A faint smile twitched at the corner of his mouth. "And who protects you, Miss William?" "God. On most days," she replied. "But tonight I'm fine on my own." There was silence for a beat. Then he stepped forward, just enough for the moon to catch the sharp lines of his face, mid-40s. Pale, eyes like glass. "Your composure is impressive," he said. "I expected fear, a call for help, or at the very least, a weapon." "I've already survived worse men than you," Maya said flatly. His smile deepened. "That, I don't doubt." "No." In the upper windows of the estate, Harris and his operative tracked the figure with laser scopes, waiting for a signal. But Maya had insisted no engagement unless necessary. The man's gaze swept briefly toward the house. "You're not really alone, are you?" "You're smart," Maya replied. "And yet," he said, amused, "you came out anyway. Why?" She took one more step forward. "Because I want to know who you work for." He chuckled. "No, you don't." "Venturo Global?" she pressed. "Or is there someone else pulling the strings?" The man's smile disappeared. His eyes hardened, the mask cracking just slightly. "You ask questions like someone who knows the rules," he said. "But you forgot one." "What's that?" "Never play chess with someone who already sacrificed their queen." Suddenly, from the shadows, two more men emerged silent, dressed in matching dark suits. One flanked left, the other right. Maya's heart jumped, but she didn't move. She forced herself to stay rooted. "If you're here for Lily, you'll have to kill me." "No," the leader said. "We're not here for the girl. We're here for the damage you can do." He pulled something from his coat. A small flash drive. "What is that?" "A taste," he said, tossing it lightly at her feet. "Information. Leverage. Enough to burn Mr. Cross's empire to the ground. Or save it. Depending on what kind of woman you truly are." Maya stared at the drive. "Why would you give me this?" "Because someone always breaks first," he said softly, "and Nathaniel Cross is already cracking." He turned to walk away, and the two other men followed without a word. No violence. No threats. Just cold precision. Maya didn't move until they were gone, the hedges parting silently behind them. Only then did she exhale and kneel to pick up the flash drive. Her hands trembled, but not from fear. From the weight of the war she had just stepped into. Minutes later, she was back in the study. Harris locked the doors behind her. "I had a shot," he said, frustrated. "Why didn't you give the signal?" "They weren't here to fight," she said. "Not tonight." Nathaniel entered from the hallway, his eyes jumping between Maya's face and the drive in her hand. "What is that?" he asked. Maya handed it to him. A warning, or a trap, or maybe both. He plugged it into his secure laptop, the screen lighting up instantly. What loaded was a folder labeled Cross Redacted. Inside, documents. Hundreds of them. Internal emails. Financial summaries. Personal communications from years ago, some dating back to before his wife's death. They were confidential. Some were legally sealed. "This is impossible," Nathaniel said, eyes scanning quickly. "These files are encrypted, kept offline. There's no way they got this." Maya leaned over his shoulder. Someone close to you gave it to them. Nathaniel sat back slowly, like the air had been knocked out of him. This isn't just a leak. This island. Surgical. She nodded. And they want you to know they have it. That they could ruin you. That they're already inside. He looked at her, dread spreading across his face. They're not after my company. No, Maya said. They're after you, your legacy, your mind. And if they get you to crumble, they'll walk in and take everything else without lifting a hand. Nathaniel shook his head. Why not just destroy me outright? Because power isn't in the destruction, Maya said quietly. It's in making you destroy yourself. The next few hours passed in a blur. Harris secured the estate perimeter again. The entire security system was reprogrammed with biometric-only access. Internal staff were reviewed. Claire, who had served the family for over a decade, broke into tears when she heard what had happened. This house used to feel safe, she whispered to Maya in the hallway. Now I keep looking over my shoulder. You're not the only one, Maya replied. That night, she tucked Lily into bed and lingered longer than usual. The little girl reached for her hand. Will you sleep in my room again? Lily asked, eyes wide and soft. Maya smiled gently. Not tonight, sweet pea. But I'm just across the hall. Lily hesitated. What if the man in black comes back? Maya leaned close, brushing the girl's hair back. If he does, he'll wish he never did. And in the dark hallway beyond Lily's room, Maya paused, feeling something settle over her shoulders. Responsibility, fear, fire, but also something else. Purpose. Whatever this was, it wasn't just about Nathaniel anymore. It wasn't even just about Lily. It was about all the girls Maya used to be the ones no one protected. And she was done letting the shadows win. The following morning brought no peace. Nathaniel sat stiffly at the long mahogany dining table, untouched toast on his plate, and a second cup of coffee cooling in his hand. Across from him, Maya scrolled through the decrypted contents of the flash drive on her tablet, eyes narrowed, focused like a surgeon working in silence. Every file was a crack in the polished stone of Nathaniel's public image. Private communications, internal memos about layoffs he'd blocked, letters from whistleblowers, reports that could be interpreted or twisted as signs of negligence, manipulation, even fraud. They've been collecting this for years, Maya muttered. Slow, patient, like spiders, Nathaniel exhaled, rubbing his temples. And I thought the worst thing in my life was a bad quarter. Maya looked up. You haven't been reckless. You've been insulated, and someone used that against you. Someone inside, he said bitterly. This wasn't hacked. This was handed over. Claire appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Maya, dear, there's someone at the front gate asking for you. Maya's head lifted. Who? Said his name's Dante Fields. Claims he's your brother. Nathaniel looked up sharply. You have a brother? Maya's face shifted, tightened, but she stood and nodded once. Yeah, I do. She walked to the front gate without a word, footsteps clipped and fast. When the security camera flickered on, it showed a tall man with warm brown skin, neat braids pulled back, and sharp eyes that looked too tired for his 30-something face. He wore a leather jacket and jeans and leaned against the brick pillar like he'd been waiting too long. Maya pressed the intercom. Dante? He turned toward the camera. There she island about damn time. She buzzed the gate and opened the front door just as he stepped up the walkway. They stood for a beat in the entryway, neither one embracing. But the tension in Maya's shoulders said everything. After a pause, Dante spoke first. You look good, little sis. What do you want? He whistled low. Still direct. I missed that. Say what you came to say, Dante. He looked past her, into the house. You working for Cross now? I'm protecting a child. Dante smirked. So that's what we're calling it these days? She stepped closer. You're not here to catch up. You're here because someone sent you. He tilted his head. What makes you say that? Because the last time I saw you, you left me locked in a basement with a grown man screaming upstairs. So forgive me if I don't assume this is a family reunion. Dante's face hardened. We all did what we had to do to survive. You did what you had to do for yourself, she said, voice low. I did what I had to do for everyone else. He paused, then pulled something from his coat, a plain white envelope. "I'm just the messenger, Maya. Always was." He handed it to her. She didn't take it immediately. "It's not a threat," he said. "It's an invitation." "From who?" "You already know." She took the envelope carefully, glancing over the neat handwriting. No name. Just an address in Century City. "Tell them I'm not interested." "I told them you'd say that," Dante said, turning back toward the gate. "They told me to remind you, there are other children in the world." Maya's fists clenched. "Don't you dare." He raised a hand. "Not me. I'm just the middleman." "But Maya, you're not invisible anymore." "You haven't been for a long time." He walked away without another word. Back inside, Nathaniel stood just inside the foyer, arms crossed. He'd heard most of it through the open door. "Who is he?" "My half-brother," Maya said. "We were in and out of the same foster homes for years, until he disappeared. And now he works for them?" "He works for whoever pays him." "No." She handed Nathaniel the envelope, and they opened it together. Inside, a single sheet of paper, hand, typed. "Miss William, you're not the enemy. Not yet. Meet me at the address below. No surveillance. No security. You come alone, or the deal disappears." "Isn't?" Nathaniel looked up. "I don't know," Maya admitted, "but whoever it is thinks they know me, and that's dangerous." "I don't like this," he said. "You're not supposed to." He stepped closer. "So what's the plan? Ignore it?" "No," Maya said. "I go, but not alone." "That's not what they asked." "That's not the point," she replied. "You'll stay here, with Lily. Harris can track me from a distance. But I need to know who's behind this, what they want, and why they're involving my past." Nathaniel frowned. "And if it's a trap, then I make sure I'm the one who walks away." That night, Maya dressed in a simple black blouse, jeans and boots. No jewelry, no phone, just a single tracking tag hidden in her boot heel. Harris would be watching from 3 blocks away. The address led her to a glass high-rise in Century City, one of those sterile corporate towers where everything smelled like steel and polish. She took the elevator to the 23rd floor. Heart steady, mind clear. The office was sleek and empty, all glass walls and chrome fixtures. A single man stood at the window, back turned, hands in his pockets. When he turned, Maya's breath caught. She recognized him, not from her past, but from Nathaniel's. Ethan Vale, a former partner in Cross's early ventures, quietly bought out a decade ago after a bitter dispute over ethics and data misuse. He smiled. "Maya, you're taller than I expected." "I should have known," she said. "You've been planning this for years." "I've been patient," he corrected. "I gave Nathaniel a chance to do the right thing. He refused." "So now you're threatening a child?" "I'm revealing the truth," Ethan said calmly. "Your boss built an empire on silence. I'm giving him the chance to come clean or fall apart. And you dragged me into this, why?" "Because you know how to survive storms," Ethan said, "and I need someone on the inside when this all burns down." Maya stared at him, disgust and suspicion tightening in her throat. "You're insane if you think I'd help you." "You already have," he said, tapping the flash drive symbol on his laptop screen. "You delivered the message. Now watch what happens next." Maya left without another word. But deep inside, something shifted. Because Ethan wasn't just waging war with information. He was playing for legacy. Maya drove back to the estate with her windows down, hoping the chill night air would cool the fire racing through her veins. Ethan Vale. Of course, the man who helped build Nathaniel's empire and tried to poison it from within when ethics got in the way of ambition. A ghost in a tailored suit, finally showing his face. But what chilled Maya more than Ethan's smug threats or veiled offers was his final line. "Now watch what happens next." He had something planned. Soon. By the time she turned onto the long, tree-lined drive of the Cross estate, the first lights of dawn were breaking over the hills. The house stood quiet, the world seemingly untouched, but Maya knew better. Nathaniel was waiting for her in the study, leaning over the desk in a crisp shirt and dark slacks, the look of a man who hadn't slept. When Maya entered, he straightened, relief flickering through his eyes. "You're safe," he said simply. "For now," she replied. But he's not bluffing. "Who is it?" Ethan Vale. Nathaniel's face turned to stone. I should have buried him when I had the chance. He doesn't want your company, Maya said, crossing the room. He wants your name, your soul. He's coming for what you built, but not to steal it, to erase it. Nathaniel swallowed, his jaw working as he tried to process. Why bring you into it? Because he knows I see what you don't. He thinks I'm the weakness. Nathaniel looked at her. He's wrong. I know, but the longer we stay reactive, the more ground we lose. Nathaniel pulled a chair out for her and sat beside her. Tell me everything. Maya recounted the meeting detail by detail. Every word, every gesture. Nathaniel listened closely, hands folded, eyes burning with the realization that this war was no longer theoretical. Ethan had crossed a line. When she finished, Nathaniel nodded slowly. It's time we bring this into the light. You want to go public? Maya asked. Not yet, he said, but we need allies. Journalists we can trust. Legal teams that don't work for anyone but the truth. We go loud only when we have leverage. Maya leaned back. I might know someone. Used to work with a foster advocacy group. She's a reporter now. One of the few good ones left. Nathaniel gave her a nod. Reach out. Meanwhile, Harris and I will tighten internal security. We need to trace the leak. Someone gave Ethan those files. Maya's thoughts went to Dante again, the way he stood just outside the gate like he belonged in every shadow. I'll follow my end too. Dante doesn't disappear easily. That afternoon, Maya took Lily to the community library. It was something simple, something they used to do before everything turned into coded messages and men in the dark. The child needed normalcy, and frankly, so did Maya. Inside the children's corner, Lily was absorbed in a picture book about a lost kitten finding its way home. Maya sat beside her on the carpet, feeling a strange peace settle for the first time in days. Then she felt it, a presence. She turned her head slowly. Across the library, a woman stood between shelves of nonfiction, pretending to read but watching them with too much focus. Her suit was tailored, her heels low, practical. Government type, private intelligence. Maya didn't move. She simply reached for her phone and snapped a picture, then leaned closer to Lily. Hey, sweet pea. How about we check that book out and go home? Okay? Lily nodded cheerfully, unaware of the silent war playing out around her. Outside, Maya texted the image to Harris and Nathaniel. A reply came in seconds. Unknown. Not estate staff. We're running facial recognition now. Back at the estate, Claire met them at the door with a strange expression. Maya, she said, voice tight. There's something in your room. Maya felt her heart dip. What do you mean? I was putting away laundry and found this on your bed. Claire handed her a small manila envelope, unmarked, sealed with red wax and ornate V pressed into the center. Maya took it with gloved hands and opened it carefully. Inside was a single item. A photograph of her as a teenager, standing on the steps of a juvenile detention center. Behind her, blurry but unmistakable, stood a man in a black suit. Ethan Vale. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't seen this photo in years. She didn't even know it existed. The message was clear. We've been watching you for longer than you ever realized. She turned the photo over. A single line had been scrawled in neat handwriting. We remember what they forget. Maya sank onto the edge of her bed, fingers curling around the image. Nathaniel arrived moments later, his eyes scanning the scene. What is it? She handed him the photo. He studied it. This was before we even met. Exactly, Maya said, her voice low. He didn't just choose me because I work here. He chose me because I was already on his radar. Nathaniel exhaled slowly. He's trying to fracture us, break trust, unravel history. It won't work, Maya said. Not this time. That night, Maya stood once more at Lily's doorway, watching the child sleep. But this time, her mind wasn't only on the threats outside. It was on the threats within, the fear, the memories, the guilt. She thought about the younger version of herself in that photo. Alone, unwanted, unseen, and she made a vow right there in the hallway, one hand pressed to the doorframe. This little girl would never feel that way, not while Maya was still breathing. Back in the study, Nathaniel made a call. When the line connected, he said simply, I need a full audit of every employee. Partner, contractor, and I want it yesterday. Across town, Ethan Vale stood at his penthouse window, watching the skyline with a tumbler of whiskey in hand. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, he said into the phone. And if she resists? Asked the voice on the other end. Ethan's smile was cold. Then we make her remember everything. The next morning began deceptively calm. Sunlight spilled through the wide windows of the Cross estate like nothing was broken, nothing was unraveling. But behind the thick glass and manicured silence, every breath was tight with anticipation. Maya sat in the sunroom with her laptop open, reviewing every piece of data they had on Ethan Vale, his shell companies, known associates, public appearances. Harris had compiled a comprehensive timeline, but even with all the pieces laid out, there were still too many gaps. Ethan moved like a ghost. What he wanted wasn't just power or money, it was reconstruction. He wanted to rewrite history, and Maya had a sinking feeling he was just getting started. The security audit was already underway. 3 estate employees had been flagged for secondary interviews, nothing conclusive yet, but enough to raise red flags. Nathaniel, ever the strategist, was burning through every contact he had in legal and media circles, quietly preparing a contingency plan should the storm go public. But it was Maya who received the next blow. Just after noon, her encrypted phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You forgot who you were before, Lily." "We didn't." Attached was a video file. She hesitated only a second before opening it. The screen filled with grainy footage, clearly from an old surveillance camera. A teenage Maya sat at a bus station bench, her shoulders curled inward, a small backpack clutched tightly on her lap. A man, early 30s, approached her. He wore a suit, not Ethan. Someone else. He knelt beside her and said something. There was no audio, but Maya's expression shifted from fear to rage, then to tears. The file ended with a still image of Maya at that same bench, visibly broken. Below the video was one line of text. "It's not about what you remember. It's about what the world will see." Maya's stomach twisted. She stared at the screen for a long time, barely hearing the knock at the door. It was Nathaniel. "You okay?" he asked softly. Maya didn't answer at first. Then she turned the laptop toward him. He watched the video, his expression unreadable until the very end. "Who is that?" he asked. "His name was Franklin Ames," she said quietly. "He worked for a child placement agency back when I was 15. Supposed to help. Instead, he tried to traffic me through a foster ring in Arizona. I escaped. No one believed me. He disappeared before I could testify." Nathaniel looked at her, jaw tight. "They're using this?" he asked. "They're showing what they want to be true," Maya replied. "That I was unstable, that I had a history of violence, that I can't be trusted around a child." Nathaniel leaned against the desk, breathing slowly. "They're trying to cut you out of the equation. They're trying to erase me," she said. Nathaniel nodded slowly. "Then we make you undeniable." He picked up his phone and dialed. Maya blinked. "Who are you calling?" "A lawyer I trust. Her name's Carmen Albright. She used to work federal cases involving system corruption. She doesn't scare easy." Maya swallowed. "You're going to expose them?" "We're going to build a defense before they launch their offense. If they want to dig through your past, then we give them everything but our version, not theirs." Later that day, Carmen arrived at the estate mid-50s, sharp gray bob, dark navy suit, eyes that looked like they'd stared down senators and won. She shook Maya's hand firmly, then sat down with a legal pad and a steely smile. "I don't care about gossip," Carmen said. "I care about facts, records, and intention. Let's start at the beginning." For the next 2 hours, Maya told her everything, from the stairwells of state homes to the threats of men like Franklin Ames. She didn't soften the edges. She didn't skip the ugly parts. Carmen took notes with rapid precision, asking only when necessary. When they finished, Carmen tapped her pen on the pad and looked up. "They want to use your history as proof that you're a threat. What they don't realize is that your history is your credibility." Maya raised an eyebrow. "How do you figure?" "Because no one survives what you survived and still becomes the kind of woman who guards a child with her life. That's not a liability. That's a character witness in flesh and blood." Maya felt something unspoken loosen in her chest. Across the estate, Lily was playing in the back garden with her plush lamb and Claire. The child's laughter floated faintly through the open windows, a reminder that innocence still existed in pockets fleeting, precious. Then Harris entered the room. "I've got something," he said, tossing a file onto the table. "Facial recognition match on the woman from the library. Her name is Katrina Weller. Ex-NSA analyst turned private contractor. And guess who's her current employer?" Nathaniel stood. "Ethan Vale." "Bingo." "She was watching Lily," Maya said. "Not just watching," Harris replied. "We traced her parking tickets. She's been in this zip code 12 times in the past month. Always near schools, libraries, parks. She's mapping habits. She's planning a move," Maya whispered. Nathaniel clenched his fists. "We have to act before they do." Carmen stood. "Then you need to control the narrative. Let me draft a statement truthful, unflinching. We release it to one trusted outlet. If they leak Maya's past, it looks like retaliation. If they leak footage, we show context." Nathaniel nodded. "Do it." Maya looked to the window, to the garden where Lily danced barefoot in the grass, her arms outstretched like wings. For a brief second, she was just a girl, and Maya was just her guardian. But Maya knew what was coming. The past was no longer behind her. It had been weaponized, reassembled, and aimed at her heart. And the only way to survive was to walk straight through the fire with her eyes wide open. That night, long after Lily had been tucked into bed, Maya stood on the balcony alone. She thought about the video, the photo, the message. And then she thought about a girl who once sat on a bus stop bench with no one in the world to trust. "You should have finished me back then," she whispered into the night. Because now, she was someone's sword. The morning after Carmen's arrival, the house felt like it had grown steel bones. Security checkpoints doubled. Internal staff movements were tracked, and all electronics were scanned for hidden transmitters. Lily, still innocent to the battle brewing around her, sat in her favorite spot in the sunroom with Maya, humming softly as she drew with colored pencils. Outside the window, Harris and 2 of his men adjusted hidden cameras and scanned for drones. Maya kept one hand on her coffee, the other resting lightly over Lily's small back. Every few seconds, her eyes flicked to the window, her ears tuned for the sound of tires on gravel, a drone's buzz, or something worse, silence. Nathaniel entered, sharp in a navy vest and slacks, holding a folder marked confidential. He sat beside Maya and gently took the drawing. Lily offered a butterfly with bright orange wings and a castle in the background. "Beautiful," he said, brushing a hand through the little girl's hair. Then he turned to Maya, voice low. "We need to talk." "In the study." Maya nodded, kissed Lily's forehead, and followed. Inside, Carmen was already waiting, along with Harris. The air in the room felt tighter than usual. Nathaniel placed the folder on the desk and opened it slowly. Inside was a document bearing the official seal of the California Department of Child Services. "They're filing an emergency review," Nathaniel said quietly. Maya blinked. "Review of what?" "Of me," he replied. "Of my custody of Lily." Maya's heart dropped. "No." Carmen stepped forward. "They've alleged that you're emotionally unstable due to the death of your wife and recent violent outbursts toward staff, that your judgment is compromised, and that your daughter is being exposed to high-risk individuals." Maya didn't have to ask who they meant by that. "They're using me," she said, breath tight, twisting everything. "It's not just about you," Carmen added. "They're also claiming Nathaniel has failed to disclose threats made against his daughter, which endangers her safety. If the investigation proceeds, Lily could be temporarily removed until the matter is resolved." Nathaniel stood, voice sharp. "Like hell she will. We won't let it get that far," Carmen said. "But we have to be proactive. I've already filed a preemptive injunction, and I've scheduled a closed-door meeting with the department head this afternoon." "Do I go?" Maya asked. Carmen looked at her carefully. "You'll be mentioned. They're trying to force your name into every corner of this. I need to control that. But you can help in a different way." "How?" "Find the leak," Carmen said. "Find the person who handed them this narrative. If we prove this is a smear campaign, it dies before it hits a courtroom." Maya nodded. "Then I go digging." As Carmen and Nathaniel prepared for the legal meeting, Maya made her way down to the estate archives, a small room tucked into the east wing, once used by Nathaniel's wife for correspondence and records. No one had gone through it since her passing. Maya began at the desk. Drawers full of letters, receipts, old invitations. Nothing unusual. Then she found a thin journal tucked behind a row of books. The handwriting inside was elegant, familiar. It was from Abigail Cross, Nathaniel's late wife. Most entries were mundane. Notes on Lily's schedule, mentions of her favorite songs. But then, 6 months before her death, the tone changed. Nathaniel doesn't know what they're asking him to cover up. I found the encrypted folder. Ethan's name was on the access log. I'm scared. If anything happens to me, someone needs to look inside the silver box behind the third panel in the west hallway. Maya's pulse spiked. She stood, eyes scanning the shelves. The west hallway. She left the archive room and walked briskly toward the corridor outside Nathaniel's private office. The third wall panel had a slight discoloration, a tiny groove barely visible to the naked eye. She pressed it gently. The panel clicked open. Inside sat a silver lockbox, aged but clean, labeled only with a date. May 2. Maya carried it into the study and opened it with a small metal key she found taped beneath it. Inside, a flash drive, a sealed envelope, and a burned disc. Nathaniel returned just as she spread the contents out on the desk. What is this? Your wife, Maya said softly, wasn't just worried. She was documenting something. They played the disc first. It was a screen recording dated months before Abigail's death, showing access logs to the Cross Innovations internal server. One login stood out. Ethan Vale, accessing private R&D files long after his supposed buyout. She knew, Nathaniel whispered. She knew he was stealing from us. And someone wanted her quiet, Maya said. They opened the envelope next. Inside was a letter Abigail's handwriting again. Nathaniel, if you're reading this, it means I've failed to protect Lily from what's coming. Ethan is not done with us. He never was. Please don't trust anyone in the family trust committee. I fear one of them has been feeding him information. Maya, if you find this, thank you. Take care of her, the way no one took care of you. Abby. Maya closed her eyes, breathing deep. The pieces were forming now. Abigail's suspicions, Ethan's long game, the internal betrayal, and now the attack on Lily's custody. This box is the proof we need, Nathaniel said. Then we use it, Maya replied. Carmen needs to see this. And the media. If we drop this at the right time, Ethan loses his leverage. But before they could move, Harris burst into the study, phone in hand. We've got a problem. What is it? Nathaniel asked. Lily, Harris said, his voice tense. She's gone. Maya's blood turned cold. What do you mean gone? She was in the garden with Claire. Claire turned her back for 30 seconds to answer a call. When she turned back, Lily wasn't there. Maya's heart slammed against her ribs. Cameras? We're checking now. But the back perimeter was down for 6 minutes. A signal jammer. Nathaniel's face paled. Ethan. Maya didn't hesitate. She sprinted for the garden, calling Lily's name with a panic she hadn't felt since her own childhood. But the garden was empty. No small shoes. No laughter. Just the slow echo of her own voice in the wind. They had struck first, and now, everything was at risk. The world narrowed into noise and breath. Maya's lungs burned as she tore through the garden, her eyes darting through the hedges, over the stone wall, around the perimeter. Lily, she shouted, voice cracking. Lily, no answer, just wind, just birds, just the echo of her own panic bouncing back at her. Nathaniel was only steps behind her, phone pressed to his ear, barking commands to Harris and the estate's private security team. Lock the gates, shut down every road, no one comes in or out. Harris's voice crackled through the comms. We've initiated lockdown protocol, drones in the air. But Maya, his voice dipped. No visual confirmation of Lily leaving the property. Maya stopped short. What do you mean? There's no footage of anyone carrying her out. Not over the walls. Not through the gates. Nothing. She didn't vanish. Nathaniel growled. She was taken. Or lured. Maya whispered. Her mind flashed to the books in the library. The woman who'd been watching them. Katrina Weller. Patterns. Routines. Predictability. She was being studied, Maya said, turning to Nathaniel. Every movement, every habit. They knew she liked the garden at this time. Claire's phone was hacked, probably planted with a false call. Nathaniel clenched his fists. So where is she now? Maya didn't answer. Instead, she ran inside, straight to the study, where Carmen was gathering the legal documents for the meeting with Child Services. Lily's gone, Maya said breathlessly. Taken. We need to move now. Carmen's face paled. Do we have any leverage? Maya held up the silver lockbox contents. We do now. 10 minutes later, a full command post had been activated inside the estate. Harris stood before a digital map, tracking all vehicles that left the surrounding area within the last 30 minutes. Drones scanned the terrain. Cameras rotated. Facial recognition ran non-stop. But it was Maya who caught the pattern first. There. She pointed at the map. That trail, it doesn't go toward the main road. It cuts through the service path. That leads to the old water treatment plant, Harris confirmed. No one's used that facility in years. Exactly why they'd use it, Maya replied. Can we get there before they move her? Harris checked his watch. Maybe. If we leave now. Nathaniel reached for his keys. But Maya stopped him. No. You stay here in case it's a diversion. If Lily gets brought back while we're gone, she needs to see you. Not more chaos. He hesitated. She gripped his arm. I'll bring her back. He nodded once. Bring her home. The old treatment plant sat like a forgotten relic on the edge of the property line, gray concrete, rusted metal, tall grass swallowing the entrance. Harris pulled up beside it in an unmarked SUV. Maya was out the door before the engine died. The air inside was damp and metallic, smelling of mildew and neglect. They moved quietly through the corridors, flashlights sweeping the shadows. You think he's really here? Harris whispered. Maya nodded. Ethan wouldn't hand Lily off. He needs leverage in real time. A creak echoed from the upper level. Maya lifted her weapon. There. They ascended the stairs slowly. At the top, a door stood ajar, light spilling through the crack. Inside, a makeshift room had been created. Lights, a desk, surveillance monitors, and in the corner, a small figure sat on a worn mattress. Lily. Her plush lamb clutched to her chest, her eyes wide but dry. Not crying. Watching. Maya lowered her weapon and stepped inside, heart pounding with something halfway between relief and rage. Lily, she whispered. The child looked up. Maya. She rushed forward, wrapping her arms around Maya's waist. I knew you'd come. I'm here, baby. I've got you. But as Maya stood, gun still in hand, a voice came from behind, touching, really. Ethan Vale stepped from the shadows, wearing a pressed black suit and a faint smile. Though I must admit I didn't expect you to find her this fast. Harris swung his gun up. Ethan raised his hands casually. No need for that. I'm unarmed. This was never about hurting the child. You kidnapped a 5-year-old, Maya snapped. Don't try to spin it. I didn't kidnap her, Ethan replied smoothly. I relocated her to demonstrate a point. Nathaniel is vulnerable. And you? He looked at Maya with amusement. You're more valuable than I gave you credit for. This ends now, Maya said. You're going to prison. Ethan laughed softly. You think the law scares me? I own judges, Maya. I've bought senators. You're playing a righteous game in a rigged casino. Then burn with it, Maya growled. In a flash, Harris grabbed Ethan by the arm, pinning him against the wall. But Ethan didn't fight. He only smiled. You should be thanking me, he hissed. I just reminded you what's worth fighting for. Maya lifted Lily into her arms, holding her tight. The child buried her face in Maya's neck. Safe again, but forever changed. As they walked out of the building, Harris called in the authorities. Ethan would be detained. For now. But Maya knew this wasn't the end. Back at the estate, Nathaniel met them at the door, dropping to his knees as Lily leapt into his arms. He held her so tightly she squealed. "Daddy!" "I've got you," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I've got you." Maya stood a few steps back, watching, her hand trembling from the adrenaline she hadn't yet processed. Nathaniel looked up, tears in his eyes. "Thank you." Maya nodded, but her jaw was tight. "It's not over," Ethan gave up too easily. "He said something about reminding me," Nathaniel said. "Reminding us what we're fighting for." Maya looked toward the hills, where the sunset began to fade. "Then it's time we show him what we're made of." And in the silence that followed, the house no longer felt like a fortress under siege. It felt like the heart of a war yet to come. But this time, they were ready. For the first time in days, Lily slept through the night. Tucked between clean sheets, her lamb plushie snug under her chin, she breathed the slow rhythm of children who had been pulled back from the edge of something they didn't fully understand. Maya sat by her bedside until the last whisper of tension melted from the girl's shoulders. Only then did she rise and close the door with a soft click. But sleep wouldn't come for her. Not tonight. Downstairs in the study, Nathaniel stood alone, a whiskey glass in his hand, untouched. The silver lockbox lay open on the desk beside him, Abigail's handwriting exposed under the lamplight. When Maya entered, he looked up but said nothing. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was charged, heavy with realization. Ethan hadn't just targeted their lives, he had weaponized their pasts, and the war wasn't over. "He wanted us to feel powerless," Maya said finally. Nathaniel nodded. "He wanted me to remember what it's like to fail the people I love." Maya approached the desk, resting her hand on the edge. "We have to stop reacting. We have to go on offense." "I agree," he said quietly, "but we do it smart, strategic. Ethan's still protected. If we move too fast, we give him an excuse to vanish again." Maya opened her laptop and pulled up a set of files, ones Harris had recovered from the encrypted folders in Abigail's journal. Names, dates, transactions. Some of them traced back nearly a decade, all tied to Ethan's shadow network. At the center of it all, a shell corporation called Helix 8, registered in the Cayman Islands. "Helix 8, she said. "They've funneled millions through that account into lobbying groups, media fronts, and private security contracts. It's his engine." Nathaniel leaned in. "So we dismantle the engine. We'll need access to the offshore servers," Maya replied, "and that means getting someone inside." Nathaniel was already thinking. "There's someone, Victor Hale. He used to work cybersecurity for the Department of Defense. Now he's freelancing. I helped him once, got him out of a messy lawsuit. He owes me." Maya nodded. "Call him." As Nathaniel stepped away to make the call, Maya's phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number again. "You think this is over?" That was just a lesson. The real collapse begins at dawn. No image this time, no taunt, just a warning. She stared at the screen, then forwarded it to Harris and Carmen with the message. "We need round-the-clock surveillance doubled, now." Moments later, Nathaniel returned, looking grim. "Victor's in. He's already scraping metadata from Helix's servers. But Maya, he found something. A project name, Marble Pulse." Maya frowned. "What does that mean?" "We don't know yet, but it's buried deep in classified partitions. Whatever it is, it's important enough that Ethan's using government-grade encryption to protect it." Marble Pulse. Maya repeated the words in her mind, over and over, hoping something would click. But it was like trying to grasp smoke. It was clear only in what it implied, something beneath the surface, hidden, waiting. Harris burst into the study. "Got something. One of Ethan's offshore entities made a large transfer this morning, 7 figures, to a logistics firm in Nevada. Guess what their specialty is?" "Warehousing and cold storage," Maya said. "Exactly. And the property they're renting? An old federal depository in the desert, decommissioned 5 years ago." Nathaniel stood. "We're going there." "Duh." Carmen stepped in from the hall, already on her phone. "I'll secure warrants under whistleblower protection laws. But if you're going, take backup. If Ethan's storing something there, it won't be unguarded." By midday, Maya and Nathaniel were on a private flight to Nevada. accompanied by Harris and two trusted agents from an independent security firm. The entire way, Maya reviewed blueprints of the depository, multiple levels, formerly used for classified materials, most of it underground. The perfect place to hide something you didn't want seen. 4 hours later they arrived. Dusty wind blew across the tarmac. The sun beat down like a threat. The facility itself sat like a scar on the land, concrete, brutal, without windows. At first glance, it looked abandoned, but when they breached the outer gate, the security systems kicked in. "We're not the first ones here," Harris muttered. They moved swiftly, room by room, level by level. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. On the lowest floor, they found it. Rows of metal crates, each marked with a simple emblem, a marble column, split down the center. Maya opened the nearest crate. Inside, servers. Hundreds of them. All humming, all running. Real-time data streamed across multiple monitors connected to a central console. Nathaniel approached, eyes narrowing. "Victor, you're online?" His voice carried through the headset. "Copy that. I'm in." "Now, what are we looking at?" Victor's voice came through after a moment of tense silence. "You're looking at a predictive modeling system." "For what?" Maya asked. "For civil collapse," Victor said. "Marble Pulse isn't a weapon. It's a scenario engine. It models how to destabilize trust in government systems, financial networks, even cultural memory. Ethan's been running simulations on how to fracture America from the inside out." Maya's breath caught. "He's not just trying to destroy Nathaniel. He's trying to spark chaos." Nathaniel's voice was cold. "And build something new in the ashes." "Exactly," Victor said. "He's got models predicting how the public would react if certain scandals were released, which cities would riot, which politicians would fall, how to turn the public against each other." Maya looked at the crates, the servers, the quiet hum of digital warfare. "He's not just a threat to us," she whispered. "He's a threat to everyone." Nathaniel turned to Harris. "Download everything, then destroy the drives. We don't let this data breathe another second." As the servers were pulled apart and wiped, Maya stepped away, her hands shaking, not from fear but from clarity. Ethan Vale had stopped being a man. Now, he was an idea, and ideas were harder to kill, but not impossible. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Maya stood at the facility's entrance and looked out across the desert. This war wasn't just personal anymore. It was righteous, and it had only just begun. The following day, the Cross estate transformed from a home into a command center. Harris's team installed encrypted servers in the basement. Carmen coordinated with federal contacts from her old days in Washington. Nathaniel brought in 2 ex-military intelligence operatives. And Maya stood at the center of it all, not as a housekeeper, not even as just Lily's protector, but as the one person who had seen Ethan Vale for what he truly was. The data recovered from the Nevada facility, once decrypted and recompiled, revealed more than anyone anticipated. Hidden deep within the Marble Pulse simulations were seed files, labeled by year and target. Politicians, judges, even heads of nonprofit foundations. Each seed file contained psychological profiles, blackmail material, vulnerability indexes. But one file was different. One name stood out: Nathaniel Cross. Maya sat in the war room, formerly the formal dining room, staring at the screen. It was a file dated 2 years before Abigail's death. "Ethan's been grooming this collapse for years," she muttered. "You weren't just collateral, Nathaniel. You were phase 1. Nathaniel stood behind her, silent. He'd read the file twice already, each time with a deeper furrow in his brow. "There's an email from Abigail in here," Maya said, pointing to the metadata, "sent to someone named KW, timestamped just 3 weeks before she died." "KW," Nathaniel repeated. "Katrina Weller." Harris, typing furiously beside them, nodded. "I've pulled Weller's last known digital footprint. She disappeared 2 days ago, no plane tickets, no credit card activity. It's like she walked off the grid." "No, or someone helped her disappear," Maya said. Just then, Carmen entered the room, holding a folder. Her face was grave. "I got confirmation," she said. "The Department of Child Services received an anonymous tip about Nathaniel's emotional instability. The exact language from the fabricated custody complaint. The tip was sent from a private network in DC, one we now know was used by a lobbying group tied to Helix 8. So this wasn't just about defaming Maya, Nathaniel said. It was about dismantling me as a guardian, removing me from Lily's life legally, permanently. Divide and isolate, Carmen confirmed. It's straight out of psychological warfare playbooks. Ethan's not just trying to destroy you. He's trying to erase any version of reality where you could rebuild. Maya exhaled slowly. Then we rebuild louder. Later that afternoon, they gathered in the private media studio Nathaniel rarely used, originally designed for investor presentations and product launches. Now it would be used for war. Carmen adjusted her glasses and looked to Maya. You ready? Maya nodded. Let's do this. She sat before the camera, the backdrop simple, her expression calm but fierce. No script. No makeup. Just the truth. My name is Maya William, she began, voice steady. I was a child of the system. I grew up learning how to survive, how to see people for who they are because my life often depended on it. Years ago, a man named Ethan Vale tried to recruit me into a private security firm that operated outside the law. I refused, and I've been paying for that decision ever since. She looked straight into the lens. Recently, I was falsely accused. I was humiliated, threatened, and the little girl I love like my own daughter was used as a pawn. Today, I'm speaking out not just for myself or for Lily, but for every person who's ever been silenced by power and money. The broadcast was streamed live across secure networks, then fed to select journalists who Carmen trusted. Within minutes, it was trending. By the end of the hour, it had over 1 million views. But Maya wasn't finished. That evening, Nathaniel held a press conference of his own. Unlike his usual polished tech presentations, this time he appeared with Maya by his side and Carmen at the edge of the stage. He didn't speak like a billionaire. He spoke like a father. They tried to take my daughter, he said simply. They failed. By the next morning, subpoenas began to move through Washington. Carmen's former colleagues pulled strings. Several shell companies linked to Helix 8 had their assets frozen. A warrant was issued for Ethan Vale's arrest, and then he responded. At 3:07 a.m., every device in the Cross estate lit up simultaneously. Phones, tablets, laptops, even the security monitors. A video began to play. Ethan's face appeared, calm as always. The background was dark, featureless. Congratulations, he said, his voice smooth. You've made your move. You've exposed a fraction of what I've built. But here's the truth you don't want to hear, Maya. The system you're trying to protect? It was never yours. It was never just. I didn't create corruption. I refined it. He leaned forward slightly. I gave you a chance to walk away. Now you'll watch it burn. The screen went black. Seconds later, the estate's lights flickered. An alarm blared. Harris ran into the room. He's breached our grid. It's not just surveillance. He's hijacked the infrastructure. Power, water, communications. Nathaniel looked at Maya. This is it. She nodded. Then we end this. Outside, the wind picked up, and for the first time in days, the estate felt vulnerable again. But Maya wasn't afraid. She looked to the horizon, where the morning sun was just starting to rise. Ethan thinks we're just pawns, she said, but he forgot one thing. Nathaniel turned to her. What's that? Pawns can become queens. And in the rising light of dawn, war no longer seemed like a threat. It felt like justice coming home. The estate was no longer a sanctuary, it was a battlefield. After Ethan's video threat and the coordinated digital strike on their systems, Harris's team worked around the clock to restore control. Power was rerouted through generators. Communications were moved to secure analog channels. Maya stood in the command room with her arms crossed, eyes fixed on the wall of monitors. Any trace on where the broadcast originated? She asked. Harris shook his head. It was bounced off 6 proxy servers and a remote satellite link. Best guess? Somewhere in the Rockies. But that's like saying, somewhere on Earth. Carmen entered, tablet in hand, her expression grim. It's worse than we thought. Ethan's digital footprint is spreading. He's dumped, manipulated files into the dark web fake evidence, suggesting Nathaniel embezzled from a children's cancer charity. They're already circulating. Nathaniel muttered a curse under his breath. He's turning public sentiment against us. No, Maya said, her voice sharp. He's trying to get us to lose control. We don't play defense anymore. We strike. Carmen nodded. I've been thinking the same. We need to bait him, lure him into making a mistake. Nathaniel looked between them. How? Maya stepped forward. We give him what he wants access, but we control the board. Carmen raised a brow. You're talking about a honeypot? Exactly, Maya said. We leak a fabricated project, something massive, something that looks like a failsafe in case the real cross files are destroyed. We'll make it look like Abigail buried it in a private server tied to a location Ethan can't resist. Nathaniel crossed his arms. And where's that? Maya held his gaze. Abigail's hometown, the chapel where she grew up. There was a beat of silence. You think he'll fall for it? Carmen asked. He's arrogant, Maya replied. He'll want to erase her legacy himself. Within hours, Carmen and Victor built the fake project, giving it a name Project Covenant. They loaded it with enough realistic data, visual breadcrumbs, and a simulated backdoor to make Ethan believe it was genuine. Then, they leaked a private message through an anonymous network, ensuring it would find its way to one of Ethan's dormant channels. They didn't have to wait long. By nightfall, a drone camera caught movement near the chapel ruins on the outskirts of Sonoma County, where Abigail once volunteered as a youth counselor. A black SUV. 2 figures in tactical gear, one tall, walking with the posture of command. It's him, Maya said. He took the bait. Nathaniel's voice was steady. Then let's finish this. The team mobilized quickly. Carmen stayed behind to coordinate with the feds. Maya, Harris, and Nathaniel went in a second SUV, headlights off, guided only by GPS and night vision goggles. The chapel stood silent in the moonlight, its stained glass shattered long ago, the steeple leaning like a tired soldier. They parked 100 yards away and approached on foot. Maya moved like a shadow through the broken fence, her senses razor sharp. Her hand brushed the old wood of the chapel door. Inside, candlelight flickered. He's not alone, Harris whispered in her ear. Thermals picking up 3 heat signatures. They split. Nathaniel flanked left, Harris right. Maya entered through the front, stepping softly into the main hall. The smell of dust and old wax filled her nose. And then, she saw him. Ethan stood at the altar. You always had flair for the dramatic, Maya said, voice calm. Ethan turned, smirking. And you always had a knack for survival. Pity you never had the stomach to do what it takes. I do now. He chuckled. You think this changes anything? That exposing me makes the world care? The world loves wolves, Maya. They only pretend to fear them. She raised her weapon. You're not a wolf. You're just a coward in expensive shoes. Suddenly, a shot rang out not from Ethan, but from the rafters, one of his men. Maya dove to the side, rolling behind a pew. Another shot. Wood splintered above her head. Harris fired back from the far side, pinning the shooter. Nathaniel burst through the side entrance, tackling the second guard from behind. Chaos exploded in the chapel. Ethan tried to retreat, but Maya was faster. She intercepted him near the back exit, slamming him into the wall. His elbow caught her cheek, but she didn't let go. Her knee drove into his stomach, forcing him down. Still think I won't do what it takes? She hissed. Ethan wheezed. Go ahead. Kill me. You'll prove I was right about you. No, she said, breathing hard. That would be justice too easy. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small flash drive. This, she said, waving it. This isn't the honeypot. This is the real Covenant file. The one that shows every dollar you funneled, every operative you paid, every life you ruined. Ethan's eyes widened. You're lying. I don't need to lie. I just need to make sure you never touch power again. Behind her, Harris and Nathaniel secured the chapel. The guards were down. Police sirens echoed in the distance. Ethan sagged against the wall, defeated. You can't stop what's coming, he whispered. The cracks are already there. Maya leaned in close. Then I'll be the one holding the pieces together. She stood as officers stormed the building, guns raised. Ethan was cuffed, dragged away without ceremony. No final speech, no clever monologue, just silence. Outside, under the stars, Nathaniel put a hand on Maya's shoulder. "It's over." "No," she said. "It started." He looked at her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "For the first time in a long time, yeah. But we still have to clean up the mess. Lily deserves a world where this kind of evil isn't allowed to crawl back." He smiled faintly. "Then we do it together." And as dawn broke over the battered chapel, the first light fell through the broken stained glass, painting the floor in shards of color. It wasn't redemption. Not yet, but it was the first honest step toward it. 3 days after Ethan's arrest, the Cross estate was quieter than it had been in weeks. No more war rooms, no more midnight alarms, no more encrypted drives or tactical briefings. But the silence wasn't peace, it was the kind that follows a storm, when the wreckage begins to show beneath the stillness. Maya sat on the back porch with a steaming mug of black coffee. The morning sun was soft, painting gold across the rolling vineyard hills beyond the estate. She watched the trees sway and let herself breathe. Her ribs ached from the fight in the chapel. Her cheek still bore the purple bloom of Ethan's elbow. But the pain didn't bother her. What gnawed at her was the question that came after every battle. Now what? Behind her, the glass door slid open. Lily's tiny footsteps padded out onto the porch. She wore a sweater 2 sizes too big, and clutched her stuffed lamb to her chest. "Maya?" Maya turned and smiled. "Hey, little one. Oh, are the bad people gone now?" Lily's voice was quiet, unsure. Maya hesitated, then pulled her onto her lap. "The worst one island. But sometimes, even after bad people are gone, we still have to be careful. That's how we stay safe." Lily leaned her head against Maya's chest. "You didn't let him take me." "Never," Maya whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "You're my girl. Always will be." Inside, Nathaniel stood near the kitchen window, watching them. He'd been different since the arrest, softer in some ways, more distant in others. They hadn't talked much. Too many things left unspoken, too many things to process. But today would change that. Today, they had a meeting. Later that morning, in the grand sitting room where once board members debated investments, a very different kind of gathering took place. Carmen, Harris, Victor, and a representative from the Justice Department sat around a circular table. Nathaniel entered first, followed by Maya, who now wore a tailored black blazer. She no longer looked like a maid or even a bodyguard. She looked like someone who belonged at the table. The DOJ agent, a woman named Olivia Price, leaned forward. "Let me start by saying, what you exposed will take years to untangle. Ethan Vale's network was deeper than we feared, but thanks to your operation and the files from the Covenant server, we have enough evidence to implicate multiple high-level operatives, some of whom are already flipping to save themselves." Nathaniel nodded. "What about the public?" "We're moving carefully," Olivia replied. "Full exposure would cause panic. Instead, we're quietly neutralizing each threat. Your names will be cleared. And Maya," she turned to her, "we want you to testify, not just in Ethan's trial, but before a classified committee overseeing federal security protocols." Maya blinked. "Why me?" "Because you saw it from the inside. Not just the conspiracy, but the consequences. The way systems fail vulnerable people. Your voice matters." Maya swallowed hard. "I'll do it." After the meeting, Maya stepped out into the hallway, her thoughts swirling. Nathaniel joined her, hands in his pockets. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Just hadn't imagined testifying before Congress when I took this job." Nathaniel smiled faintly. "You've never just had a job here, Maya. You've had a purpose." They walked in silence down the corridor lined with Abigail's paintings. Oil strokes, abstract colors, hints of light breaking through shadow. "I keep thinking about her," Maya said. "Abigail, how much she must have known, how scared she must have been." "She wasn't scared," Nathaniel said. "She was furious and determined. She just didn't get the chance to finish what she started." Maya looked at him. But we did. He nodded. We did. Later that afternoon, Lily came bounding into Maya's room holding a sheet of crayon drawings. Look, she shouted. That's me and you and Daddy and Fluffy, and we're flying in a spaceship. Maya laughed. Why a spaceship? Because we already saved the world, Lily said matter-of-factly. Now we get to go to space. Maya knelt and took her tiny hands. You're going to do amazing things, little girl. Just promise me you'll keep your feet on the ground, too. I will, Lily giggled, and threw her arms around her neck. That night, the estate felt different. Not quieter, but warmer. The kind of quiet that felt earned. Maya sat in her room, journaling something she hadn't done since she was 16. She wrote about fear, about loyalty, about being underestimated, about watching a man become a monster, and knowing she had the strength to face him. Then she wrote about Lily, and about what it meant to fight for someone who couldn't fight for themselves. A knock came at her door. Nathaniel stood there holding 2 mugs of tea. I can't sleep, he said. Thought you might be awake too. She nodded and let him in. They sat by the window, staring out at the vineyard under starlight. You're thinking about what comes next, he said. She didn't answer at first. Then, I want to do more. Help kids like me. Foster kids, girls in the system. Maybe start a foundation in Abigail's name. Nathaniel's eyes softened. I think she'd love that. They sat in silence again, the kind that didn't need to be filled. Finally, Maya said, Thank you for believing me, even when I didn't believe in myself. He looked at her, his voice low. You saved my daughter. You saved me. I'll never stop believing in you. The stars blinked above, silent witnesses to a bond forged not in comfort but in fire. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of battles fought and won. Inside, they sipped their tea, 2 people who had seen too much but somehow still hoped, because hope, like truth, had a way of surviving. Even in silence, a week after the press storm faded and the security contractors cleared out, Maya finally let herself breathe. The Cross estate had returned to a peaceful rhythm, Lily's giggles echoing down the marble halls, kitchen smells returning to the comforting familiarity of home-cooked meals, and Nathaniel finally smiling without the shadow of guilt behind his eyes. But peace, Maya had learned, was fragile, especially when the past hadn't been buried deep enough. She stood at the edge of the vineyard, the breeze lifting strands of her hair, phone pressed to her ear. On the other end, Carmen's voice was low and clipped. We traced a signal. Someone accessed a restricted server in Nevada, an old one, supposedly shut down after Ethan's arrest. But it was pinged yesterday. Twice. Maya's shoulders stiffened. Someone trying to recover what Ethan lost? Or someone continuing what he started, Carmen said. Either way, we're not dealing with a cleanup job anymore. There's a second ring. Quiet, patient, and maybe even more dangerous. Maya closed her eyes. Send me everything. Back inside, Nathaniel was in the study, reviewing documents related to the Cross Foundation, his new initiative to combat misinformation and corruption in public policy. He looked up when she entered. Maya? She handed him the phone with Carmen still on the line, his jaw clenched as he listened. When he hung up, he said quietly, So it's not over. It never really is, she said. We just bought time. That evening, Lily was drawing again, this time at the foot of the stairs. She showed Maya a picture of their house with a big sun overhead. In the corner was a small, shadowy figure. What's that, baby? Maya asked, kneeling beside her. Lily shrugged. I don't know. It's someone watching. Maya's heart skipped. She masked it with a smile, but the hairs on the back of her neck lifted. Later that night, Maya sat alone in her bedroom with the old photo album Abigail had once kept hidden. Flipping through the pages, she paused on one she hadn't noticed before. Abigail at a conference. A man in the background. Blurred, but unmistakable. The man Maya had seen on the estate grounds months ago, the same face she had spotted from the balcony that day Ethan had returned. She grabbed her phone, ran the image through Carmen's facial recognition tool. A name returned almost instantly, Silas Ward. Maya's heart dropped. She knew that name. Silas Ward had once worked for a private intelligence firm contracted by the Department of Defense, until the firm was quietly dismantled under allegations of unauthorized domestic operations. But his name had vanished after that. No public record, no current employment. A ghost in the system. She brought the photo to Nathaniel. He was close to Abigail, she said. Possibly the one who helped her compile the marble pulse files before she died. But if he's still active, then he might be the one trying to finish what Ethan started, Nathaniel said. They decided not to wait. By morning, Maya and Nathaniel were in Washington, D.C., this time without Lily. She remained safely at the estate, guarded by 2 former Secret Service agents, Nathaniel's personal investment in ensuring no harm would ever reach her again. In D.C., they met with Carmen and a quiet figure from Homeland Security, who greeted them at a secure office in Arlington. The man director Roland Price looked tired, like someone who'd seen the inside of too many files labeled classified, and knew how many truths had been buried in the name of order. "We've been tracking Silas Ward for years," Price said. "We believe he's the architect of the predictive framework Ethan used. But Ethan was always a front. Silas was the brain." "Then why wasn't he arrested?" Nathaniel asked. "Because he was protected," Price said bitterly, "by people who believed instability was a useful tool. But the political winds have shifted. You brought down Ethan. Now we can justify going after the rest." Carmen leaned forward. "So what's the next move?" "We need proof Silas is active," Price said. "If you can lure him out, we'll have legal ground to apprehend him. But if you go in without that, we risk exposing you again." Maya nodded. "He already knows we're a threat. He sent someone to the estate. Lily saw them." Price didn't look surprised. "Then let's make him act. You're both going to need to pretend everything's back to normal. Let him think he can pick up the pieces quietly." Maya stood. "And while he watches, we dig." Back at the hotel, Maya opened her laptop and began combing through Abigail's remaining files, looking for anything that might point to a connection between her and Silas. She found it in an old email thread, buried in a hidden folder. A message from Silas, dated 6 months before Abigail's death. "If we expose the model before it's complete, they'll bury us. Wait, let it evolve, then we release it, where the public can't ignore it. Trust me." Maya read the email 3 times. Silas hadn't just contributed to Marble Pulse. He'd wanted it used as a wake-up call. He believed the world needed to be shocked into awareness. But somewhere along the way, the mission had changed. The system became the enemy, and he'd embraced chaos as the only way forward. Maya leaned back in her chair, the pieces falling into place. "Silas isn't hiding because he's afraid," she said aloud. "He's waiting because he still believes he's right." That night, in the quiet of her hotel room, Maya looked out over the DC skyline. The lights flickered like tiny stars. But beneath them, she knew somewhere Silas Ward was watching too. And unlike Ethan, Silas didn't want money, or fame, or revenge. He wanted a legacy, which made him the most dangerous kind of enemy. Because men who want to be remembered, they never stop. And Maya knew she'd have to stop him before the world ever learned his name. Maya stood before the Lincoln Memorial at dawn, the sky behind the statue glowing soft orange. She hadn't slept much, not since learning about Silas Ward. The stillness of early morning gave her a chance to breathe, to collect herself before everything unraveled again. But peace was never truly still for her, not with Silas's words echoing in her mind. "Let it evolve." She turned as Carmen approached, coffee in hand. "You're up early," Carmen said. Maya took the cup and nodded. "Didn't sleep." Carmen gestured toward the massive columns behind them. "Seems like a fitting place to decide whether to burn everything down or build it back up." "Duh." Maya gave a weak smile. "What if the person we're chasing believes he's doing the latter?" Carmen's eyes narrowed. "Then we show the world what building with fire really means." By late morning, back at the secure briefing center in Arlington, the team had narrowed down Silas's possible location to a private tech incubator outside Baltimore, registered under a shell company once affiliated with an AI think tank Abigail had supported. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Victor had already accessed the building's utility data, power spikes late at night, servers pinging dead satellites. They weren't just looking at a hideout, they were looking at an operating command center. Nathaniel studied the data silently. "He's running simulations." "What kind?" Maya asked. Harris turned from his monitor. scenario-based models that predict civil disruption. The system Ethan used to test emotional manipulation on the public? Silas is running version 2.0. Maya's hands tightened into fists. He's trying to finish Marble Pulse. No, Nathaniel said. He's trying to perfect it. Director Price entered the room then, carrying a case file. We've got clearance, full authorization for a black flag extraction. No publicity, Carmen muttered. No survivors, Price said grimly. This time, we're not playing defense. But Maya wasn't so sure. What if we need him alive? What if there's more data, more proof? Price frowned. You've already given us enough to secure dozens of convictions. Silas is different. He's not just building data models. He's recruiting minds. He's teaching others how to hide in plain sight. Maya exchanged a look with Nathaniel. Then we stop him and we expose him. No more ghosts. That night, a 4-vehicle convoy moved in silence along the dark roads of Baltimore County. The building they approached looked like an abandoned warehouse, but Maya knew better. They breached the perimeter quietly. No alarms, no resistance. Inside, the silence felt too deep. Victor's voice crackled in Maya's earpiece. Server activity just went dark. He knows. They moved fast. Maya, Nathaniel, and Carmen pushed through the side entrance, while federal agents swept the opposite wing. The server room was empty, still humming. But no sign of Silas. Then Maya saw it, a laptop on a table, still logged in. An open document sat on screen. I knew you'd come. Maya's blood ran cold. A soft clinking echoed from above. She looked up. A vent shaft was open. He's in the ducts, she whispered. She sprinted back into the hallway, following the faint sound of movement above. She rounded a corner just in time to see a figure drop to the floor from a maintenance hatch. Silas Ward. He didn't run. He stood there, calmly adjusting his jacket, watching her with cold amusement. Miss William, he said, his voice deeper than she expected. You've done well. Don't, Maya said, gun raised. Not another step. I'm unarmed, he said, lifting his hands, and frankly, curious. Did you really think Ethan Vale was the root? He was barely a leaf. You're not here to lecture, Maya growled. You're here to answer. He took a slow step forward. I gave the world a mirror. You smashed it. And now you think the shards won't cut you. Maya's grip tightened on the weapon. You built a system that turns human behavior into leverage. That's not a mirror. That's a weapon. He smiled. Every truth is a weapon. Just depends on who holds it. Sirens flared behind them as agents poured into the corridor. Silas turned slowly, raised his hands higher. You've won your battle. But wars are not won with arrests. They're won with ideology. Maya stepped closer, eyes blazing. Then consider yours, bankrupt. As agents cuffed Silas and led him away, Maya exhaled. Her pulse thundered in her ears, but her eyes never left him. Even as he disappeared down the hallway, there was no satisfaction, only a cold understanding. The war wasn't over. Outside, Nathaniel waited by the convoy. Carmen stood beside him, arms crossed. Did she get him? He asked. Carmen nodded. Alive. Nathaniel looked toward the building. Then maybe we still have a chance to fix what they broke. Back at the estate 2 days later, Maya stood in the sunroom, Lily curled in her lap, fast asleep. The little girl's breaths were even now, her face peaceful, untroubled. Maya brushed a curl from her forehead and let her fingers rest over Lily's small heart. You'll never have to carry what I carried, she whispered. Later that evening, Nathaniel found Maya in the garden. They'll be watching us now, he said. The world, the press, the government, everything you did, everything we did, it's no longer secret. Maya looked up at the stars. Good. Let them watch. Maybe now they'll see. He stepped beside her. You did it, Maya. You exposed them. You protected Lily. You stood up when no one else would. She turned to him, eyes soft but resolute. No, we did it, and we're not done yet. Nathaniel nodded. What now? Maya took a deep breath. Now we rebuild, and this time, we do it in the light. In the distance, the vineyard winds whispered. Somewhere, beyond reach, the final pieces of Silas's legacy were being dismantled. But here, in this moment, something new was beginning, not with a secret, or a file, or a war room, but with a vow, to protect, to rebuild, to never go silent again. 6 months later, the vineyard was in bloom again. Rows of green stretched under a soft California sun, the hills gently rolling in the distance. The Cross estate had become something different now, not just a fortress of wealth and legacy, but a sanctuary for rebuilding, a symbol of resilience, of truth. Maya stood at the edge of the field, watching as volunteers finished assembling a new structure, the Abigail Cross Center for Justice and Youth Advocacy. A modern building of glass and stone, filled with classrooms, legal aid offices, and mentorship programs for children in the foster system. Her system. The system she'd once nearly been lost in. Nathaniel walked up behind her, adjusting his tie. He was wearing a charcoal suit today, sleek, simple, unassuming, but with that quiet air of dignity he carried when something mattered deeply. "You ready?" he asked. Maya exhaled, smoothing her palms down the sides of her blue dress. "As I'll ever be." A stage had been set up in front of the center. White chairs arranged neatly in rows for guests, media, and families. A banner stretched across the awning. "Hope is a choice. Truth is a duty." Lily stood by the edge of the platform in a floral dress, her stuffed lamb tucked under one arm. When she saw Maya, she waved enthusiastically. Maya smiled and waved back, her heart lifting. Carmen, now an official board member of the foundation, was organizing press badges and keeping nosy reporters at bay. Harris was chatting with the local police chief, discussing new transparency policies. Even Victor had shown up, reluctantly wearing a tie, mumbling about how they'd sucked him into community service. Everything felt surreal, but not unearned. When it was Maya's turn to speak, she stood behind the podium, microphone adjusted, the weight of hundreds of eyes resting gently on her. She took a breath. "I used to think that silence was survival," she began, voice strong but warm, "that if I kept my head down, stayed small, followed orders, I'd be safe. That's what the world teaches people like me, especially girls, especially black girls, especially the ones who grow up with nothing." A pause. The wind stirred slightly, whispering through the vineyard. "But silence doesn't protect you. It only gives power to those who already have too much. People like Ethan Vale. People like Silas Ward. And systems that are built to look the other way." She looked out at the audience, finding familiar faces, strangers, children. So when a 5-year-old girl stood on a balcony and said it was my fault, I believed her, because I'd been trained to. But what I learned after that day was this: the truth always finds a way, and when it does, it demands your voice. A soft murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. She continued, "This center is not a monument to what we survived. It's a launch pad for what we're building. A future where no child has to choose between safety and silence, where justice isn't bought or buried." Applause, genuine, not forced. "And this," she gestured behind her to the building, "is just the beginning." When the ribbon was cut, Lily was the one to hold the oversized scissors. She giggled as the crowd cheered. Maya knelt beside her afterward, brushing a curl from her face. "You did so good," Lily beamed. "Can we go see the computer room?" "Of course, Ma." But as they walked inside, Maya caught sight of someone standing near the back of the crowd, tall, in a plain jacket, sunglasses hiding most of his face. A familiar chill ran through her, but when she blinked, he was gone. Later that evening, Nathaniel found her sitting alone under the large oak tree behind the center. "You saw him, didn't you?" he asked. Maya nodded slowly. "Maybe. Or maybe it was just a memory." You think Silas is still out there?" "I think people like him never disappear, but they lose power when we stop being afraid." He sat beside her, stretching his legs out. "You've come a long way from the girl I yelled at on that balcony." She chuckled softly. "And you've come a long way from the man who thought money could fix grief." They sat in silence, comfortable now. After a moment, he said, "I was thinking about a name." "For what?" "For the vineyard, for the next batch of wine. We always name them after someone we owe." Maya tilted her head. "I was thinking, we call it Maya's Light." Her eyes misted unexpectedly. She looked down, then back at him. "I'd be honored," she whispered. He smiled. "Good, because it's already bottled." As dusk settled, the estate glowed in amber hues. The new center hummed with laughter. children exploring rooms with books and music and paint. Families gathered for dinner under lantern-lit tents. There was no trace of the terror that once walked these grounds. Maya stood at the threshold, looking out into the night. This wasn't the end of the story, but it was the end of a chapter. One where the girl once blamed for someone else's mistake became the woman who built something no one could take away. A place of safety, a place of truth, a place of light beyond the shadows. At its heart, this story is not just about betrayal and redemption, it's about the quiet courage of those the world often ignores. Maya's journey reminds us that strength doesn't always come from power or wealth, but from the will to stand up when silence would be easier. It teaches us that justice is not a destination, it's a daily choice, often made in the shadows by people who are never thanked, never seen, but whose actions shift the world. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that healing begins when truth is spoken, not just for the sake of the wounded, but to prevent the wounds from repeating. In a world still haunted by inequality and systemic silence, we must choose to listen, to speak, and to rebuild together.